Commander Liana Reyes stared at the holographic display, her fingers hovering over the authorization seal. The Coalition's command center hummed with the low thrum of servers and murmured voices from aides clustered around auxiliary consoles. Outside the reinforced viewports, the void of space stretched black and indifferent, dotted by the faint glow of the Iran refugee flotilla approaching like a wounded herd. Irans, those fragile, avian-like aliens from the outer rim worlds, had been streaming in for weeks, fleeing Star's expanding grip. Their ships were patchwork relics, engines sputtering on fumes, hulls scarred by skirmishes they couldn't win. Liana's jaw tightened. Her personal code demanded this: open the corridor, let them through. The Coalition's charter was built on it. Humanity's edge wasn't just firepower, but the moral high ground that kept allies flocking. But doubt gnawed at her. Intelligence reports whispered of infiltrators, Star's surgical strikes hidden in the chaos of mercy. Still, turning them away meant condemning thousands to his labor camps, or worse. She thought of Maya, her sister, already en route in one of the evacuation shuttles bound for the inner colonies. Safe, for now. Liana pressed her thumb to the seal. Humanitarian corridor authorized, she said, her voice steady over the comms. Escort convoys deploy at 0600, priority on pathogen scans and structural integrity checks, no exceptions. The room exhaled. An aide nodded, relaying orders. Liana leaned back in her chair, the weight of command settling like an old scar. Institutions like this one had saved her people before, through rules, through restraint. But Star? He thrived on breaking such things. In the bowels of the research station orbiting Epsilon Eridani, Dr. Mira Chen keyed in the access code, the secure wings blast doors hissing open with a pneumatic sigh. Sterile lights flickered on, illuminating rows of isolation chambers and humming analyzers. Her team, 5 scientists in hazard suits, filed in behind her, carrying sealed crates of Iran biological samples. The air smelled of ozone and antiseptic, sharp enough to cut through the recycled staleness of the station. Pathogen processing starts now, Mira announced, her voice muffled by her visor. She moved to the central console, gloved hands dancing over the interface. The Iran's biology was a nightmare. Symbiotic microbes that could hitchhike on refugees, turning Coalition medbays into infection zones if unchecked. But Mira's work wasn't just quarantine, it was understanding. Her prototype translator, a neural-linked device cobbled from reverse-engineered alien tech, promised real negotiation, bypassing the garbled pigeons that had plagued first contacts. She slotted the first sample vial into the analyzer, watching the holographic readout bloom, viral strands twisting like smoke. Idealism burned in her chest. Knowledge could end this war without more blood. But politics loomed, whispers from the ministry about weaponizing her antidotes, turning cures into poisons for Star's forces. Mira pushed the thought down, neutrality first. Activate translator beta, she ordered. A soft chime echoed as the device synced, its algorithms parsing Iran vocal patterns from archived distress calls. For the first time, they might hear the refugees' true pleas. Not just static-laced begs. Her lead tech, a wiry man named Ellis, glanced up from his station. "Doctor, incoming from command. Flotilla's lead elements are 30 minutes out. We need those prelim scans yesterday." Mira nodded, her flaw, a blind faith in science's purity, driving her forward. If this worked, it saved lives. If it didn't, well, her team was expendable, prototypes or not. Captain Jonah Park gripped the armrest of the shuttle's command seat, eyes locked on the tactical overlay. His Spec Ops team, 8 hardened veterans in void suits, sat strapped in around him, checking weapons with the quiet efficiency of men who'd danced this edge before. The escort convoy sliced through the corridor's designated lane, a wedge of human destroyers flanking the lumbering Iran transports. Jonah's shuttle led the vanguard, sensors sweeping for anomalies. "Captain," his sensor tech murmured, "auxiliary ship off the port flank, Iran registry, but it's drifting too close. Hull patches look fresh, non-standard." Jonah's gut twisted. Redemption wasn't clean. His past in the fringe wars had taught him that. Bodies piled up when you hesitated, but crossing lines, like boarding without cause, could fracture the coalition's fragile unity. Still, Star's playbook was infiltration, collaborators bought with promises of survival. Jonah's brother Rafi, accused of just that, vanished into the outer rims. The fear clawed at him. One wrong call, and he'd mirror the monsters he hunted. "Detain it," Jonah said, voice calm as plasteel. "Boarding teams prep mag clamps, non-lethal takedown unless engaged." The shuttle banked hard, thrusters flaring blue against the black. They closed on the auxiliary, a squat, bulbous vessel patched with mismatched plating, its engines idling suspiciously. Jonah's team deployed in 0G, tethers whipping out to latch onto the hull. Breaches sealed with a thud, and they flooded in. Flashlights cutting shadows in cramped corridors reeking of alien incense and fear sweat. "Clear left," one of his men called, rifle sweeping. They found the crew, a dozen Irans, feathers molting in stress, huddled in the engine bay. But amid the chaos, Jonah's boot nudged something metallic, a human data chit stamped with coalition logistics codes. His blood ran cold, planted, or worse, real. "Secure them," he ordered, holstering his sidearm, "and get me a line to Reyes. This corridor's compromised." Back in the command center, Liana's comms crackled with Jonah's report. She paced, the flotilla's icons marching across her display, like pawns in a game she couldn't afford to lose. The ministry feed flickered on, a holographic assembly of coalition reps from Earth, Mars, and the Belt colonies. Urgent tones buzzed. Star's signal had breached their outer nets. The warlord's image materialized, a towering Krell figure, scales gleaming obsidian under his bridge lights, mandibles clicking in calculated menace. Star's eyes, cold, multifaceted, fixed on the camera. "Human coalition," he intoned, voice a gravelly translation through their filters. "Your mercy is your frailty. The Iran flotilla harbors my rightful transports. Surrender them, or watch your compassion curdle to ash." Liana's fists clenched. Star's philosophy was order through dominance. He'd exploited human aid routes before, seeding spies in refugee waves. The ministry erupted, voices overlapping in heated debate. "We can't yield," a Martian rep snapped. "It sets precedent for every fringe world." "But the optics," a Earthside diplomat countered. "Surrender looks weak, but fighting invites escalation." Liana stepped into the holoframe, her posture unyielding. "We vote no. Corridor holds. Escorts, double." The tally flashed. 68% against. Relief mixed with dread in her chest. Maya's transport was in that flotilla's tail, evac bound, but now a target. Institutions held, but at what cost? The vote's echo hadn't faded when alarms shrieked. Sensors lit up, a shadow detaching from the flotilla's rear, engines blooming hot. Not Iran, Krell assault vectors cloaked in the refugee swarm. They struck like vipers lancing into the civilian lanes. Liana's world narrowed to the display. Maya's icon, shuttle designation Echo 7, flared red. "No," she whispered, slamming her palm on the console. Explosions bloomed silent in the void, debris fields scattering like shattered glass. Thousands of signatures winked out. Iran's, humans, the vulnerable heart of the coalition's hope. "Maya!" The name tore from her throat, raw and uncommanding. Reports flooded in, boarding tethers deploying from the vectors, mag clamps latching onto surviving hulls. And then the hook, distress beacons pulsing, automated cries cutting through the static, human identification codes attached, coalition stamps, fresh and damning, stars infiltrators wearing their faces. Jonah's voice broke over the comms, strained from the auxiliaries' bridge. Captain Park to command. We've got boarders on the civvy ships. They're using our own tethers. Permission to engage? Liana's vision blurred, grief coiling into fury. Her code cracked. Survival demanded retaliation. Engage, she said, voice steel over the ache. But Jonah, make it count. No mercy for traitors. In the research wing, Mira watched the feeds on her secondary monitor, hands frozen mid-scan. Her translator prototype chimed, a partial decode from an Iran survivor. Please, twisted with Krell overrides. Her idealism shattered. This knowledge wasn't saving lives, it was arming the war. Ellis burst in, face pale behind his visor. Doctor, the pathogens, they're weaponized. In the samples, stars turning our mercy against us. Mira's fear crystallized. Her work, neutral no more. She grabbed the console, initiating lockdown protocols. But the station shuddered, proximity alerts wailing as the strike wave closed. Choices loomed. Seal the wing and abandon the refugees, or risk everything to deploy the antidote prototypes. Her team looked to her, eyes wide. Pragmatism won. She keyed the release. Distribute countermeasures now. Jonah's team fought through the auxiliaries' vents. The detained Erans secured, but the real threat uncoiling. Gunfire echoed, suppressed bursts from Krell's shock troops, their exosuits blending with the shadows. Jonah rolled behind a bulkhead, plasma scorching the air where his head had been. His flaw surged. The line between defender and butcher blurred in the heat. "Flank them!" he barked, tossing a stun grenade. It detonated in a flash, dropping 2 assailants. But the human chit burned in his pocket. Rafi's signature? No time. He pushed forward, rifle barking precise shots. 1 Krell went down, mandibles twitching in death. Jonah's past whispered this was redemption or damnation. The corridor devolved into chaos. Escorts fired warning volleys, but Star's vectors weaved through the civilian debris, tethers snaking out like parasites. Liana watched Maya's shuttle icon stabilize, adrift but intact, then flicker, missing, thousands gone, the cost of her corridor etched in void cold numbers. Star's broadcast looped, theatrical now. See your altruism's price. Order demands sacrifice. Liana's resolve hardened, morally complex and dangerous. Humanity's competence wasn't in blind mercy, it was in the polite fury that followed betrayal. All units, she transmitted, calm as a drawn blade. Counter-strike authorized. Target the vectors. Protect what's left. The battle ignited, humans emerging not as saviors, but as survivors forged in compromise's fire. Jonah breached the nearest tether point, his team cutting through to the assault craft. Mira's countermeasures beamed to the flotilla remnants, buying seconds. But the hook dug deeper, those human IDs on the tethers, collaborators or Star's forgery. The war scarred deeper, forcing choices that would ruin as much as they redeemed. The dim glow of tactical hollows flickered across the command deck of the Endurance, casting long shadows on the faces of the Coalition's inner circle. Commander Liana Reyes stood at the head of the obsidian table, her uniform crisp despite the chaos that had just ripped through their flanks. The air hummed with the low thrum of emergency vents, sucking out the acrid tang of scorched wiring from the recent breach. Her jaw tightened as she scanned the room. Admiral Voss from Fleet Ops, eyes hollowed by sleepless shifts. General Hale, the ground forces liaison, nursing a bandaged arm, and a handful of aides, their tablets clutched like talismans. "We hit them where it hurts," Liana said, her voice steady, slicing through the murmur of reports. She tapped the holo, zooming in on Star's supply lines, snaking through the outer asteroid belts. Surgical strikes on their logistics hubs. No carpet bombing, no civilian spillover. We degrade their momentum, show them mercy has limits. Voss leaned forward, his grizzled face creasing. Risky. Star's got those chameleon drones. Could turn our reprisals into ambushes. Then we adapt, Liana replied, calm as polished steel. Intel says their forward depots are lightly guarded. We use the Vanguard's railguns for precision hits. Follow with spec ops to confirm kills. Deter them without escalating to full war. Her mind flickered to Maya. Safe, or so the reports claimed, in the evacuation zones. That thought anchored her, a rigid line in the storm. Institutions like the Coalition had held humanity together through worse. They would now. Hale nodded grudgingly. Measured, I like it, but if Star spins this as aggression... Let him, Liana cut in. Our policy of restraint bought us allies. Now it buys us time. The order went out in encrypted bursts, fleets repositioning like ghosts in the void. She felt the weight of it settle, not as victory, but as the first fracture in the glass wall of their ideals. Captain Jonah Park wiped the blood from his gauntlet on his thigh plate, the metallic smear blending with the grime of the assault craft's holding bay. The air reeked of ozone and fear sweat. The captured boarders slumped against the bulkhead under flickering restraint fields. His team had dragged them in during the breach. Star's infiltrators, scaled hides marked with the hegemon's jagged sigils. Jonah's pulse still hammered from the fight, the close-quarters frenzy where blades met energy shields, and human grit outlasted alien fury. Talk, he growled, looming over the nearest one, a wiry alien with eyes like fractured obsidian. The translator implant buzzed in Jonah's ear, Mira's prototype rendering the guttural clicks into halting English. Who sent you? What's the play on the tethers? The boarder hissed, fangs glinting. Your mercy is weakness. Star offers strength. Jonah's fist clenched, memories of his own bloodied past rising like bile. Raids on fringe colonies, lines crossed in the name of survival. He leaned in closer, voice low and polite, the kind of calm that promised violence. Strength? You boarded a hospital flotilla. Try me. He moved down the line, methodically breaking them with questions sharpened by years in the shadows. Names, roots, weak points in Star's web. Was cracked, spilling about forged IDs slipped into human networks. But then Jonah froze at the last captive, a human figure huddled in the corner, face obscured by a hood. No scales, no alien bulk, just familiar slouch. He yanked the hood back, and the world tilted. Rafi, his younger brother, eyes wide with a mix of defiance and dread, the same stubborn jawline from their last fight years ago. Accused collaborator, the word hit like a gut punch. Rafi? Jonah's voice cracked just for a second before the mask slammed down. He hauled him up by the collar, restraint field humming against his gloves. What the hell are you doing here? With them? Rafi spat, wiping his mouth. You don't get it, Jonah. The Coalition's bleeding us dry. Evacuations that strand families, policies that let Star pick us off. He promised a way out. Real protection. Treason, Jonah whispered, the accusation burning. His flaw stared back at him. The ease with which he'd bent rules before justified it as redemption. But family, this twisted it deeper. You sold us out. For what? A hegemon who exploits our compassion? Rafi's gaze hardened, mirroring Jonah's own moral cracks. And you, Captain Clean Hands, I know your ops logs, ghost strikes, bodies left in the dark. We're all compromised. Jonah shoved him back, the bay spinning with the weight of it. Orders be damned. This wasn't just intel. It was personal ruin. He signaled his team. Lock him down. Interrogation protocol. But as the fields activated, doubt gnawed. Rafi's words echoing his own fears, the line between defender and monster blurring in the dim light. Dr. Mira Chen's lab aboard the Endurance was a sterile cocoon amid the storm, walls lined with humming analyzers and vials of glowing alien biotech. Her hands, steady from years of dissecting the unknown, hovered over the console as she unraveled the seized code from the boarder's implants. The air was cool, laced with the sharp bite of coolant fluids, but sweat beaded on her brow. Outside, the ship shuddered from repositioning thrusters, Liana's reprisals launching. The code unspooled like a venomous vine, STARS translator payloads, laced with viral hooks, not just communication aids but backdoors to hijack human neural nets, turn mercy into manipulation. Mira's idealism flared. Knowledge should heal, not weaponize. But the stakes clawed at her, her team counting on this for antidotes, prototypes that could save thousands. She isolated a segment, the hollow pulsing with corrupted data streams. "If I purge this," she murmured to herself, voice tight, "we lose the clean translation matrix. Months of work gone." Her flaw pressed in, underestimating how politics twisted science into blades. Personal stake hit harder. Her researchers trapped in the labs during the breach, one already wounded. And if this went viral, her work, the very tool meant to bridge species, became STAR's noose. Fingers trembling slightly, she initiated the purge. Firewalls slammed down, data shredding in digital pyres. Alarms chirped warnings of lost continuity, antidote yields halved, translation fidelity dropped. Sacrifice, it tasted like ash. Neutrality first, she told the empty room, but doubt whispered, was this ethics or just delaying the inevitable weaponization? The console went dark, her reflection staring back, idealist turned pragmatist, one deletion at a time. Liana's command chair creaked under her as the reprisal reports flooded in, logistics hubs blooming into fireballs on the holo, STAR's supply chains fraying. A small win, measured and moral, but victory soured fast. An aide burst onto the deck, face pale. "Ma'am, intercepted transmission from STAR's flagship. They're embargoing the food convoys to Sector 7, Maya's sector." The words landed like a torpedo. Liana's breath caught, the rigid code in her chest fracturing. Sector 7, her sister's haven, the Coalition's altruistic lifeline for displaced civilians. Reports cascaded. Convoys halted at choke points, alien enforcers sealing routes. Starvation loomed, imminent and brutal, a humanitarian collapse engineered to break her. "Estimates?" she demanded, voice even, but her nails dug into the armrest. 3 days to critical, the aide said. "Kids first. Riots already brewing in the outer habs." STAR's philosophy in action. Exploit the weak link, force the hand. Liana's fear surged. Failing Maya, the vow she'd made after their parents' loss in the first waves. Institutions crumbling under pressure. She pulled up the sector schematics. Fortified staging areas blinking red. Key to holding the line against further incursions. "Options," she said to Voss and Hale, who had reconvened. "Push through with escorts," Voss suggested. "Break the embargo, but it invites full retaliation." Hale shook his head. "Or reinforce the staging ground. Dig in, weather the storm. Civilians hold the fort." Liana's mind raced, moral contradictions tearing at her. Protect civilians, preserve the coalition, or sacrifice sectors for the greater fight. Maya's face flashed in her memory, young and trusting. No, the cost would be too high. "Evacuate Sector 7, she ordered, the words heavy as lead. "Full pullout, redirect all assets, transports, medevacs. Abandon the staging area." Voss's eyes widened. "That's a strategic gut punch. STAR gains ground, our flanks expose." I know, Liana said, polite steel masking the scar. But we don't let them starve our own to prove a point. Civilians first. That's the line we hold. Orders flew, ships diverting, the hollow shifting as positions crumbled. A setback, yes, but survival demanded it. Her code bent, not broke, yet the war's weight pressed harder, promising more ruins ahead. As the evacuation klaxons wailed across the fleet, another alert pierced the din. An encrypted transmission decrypted in real time. Liana leaned in, the list unspooling. Names of human officials, coalition insiders marked as collaborators feeding star intel from within. Voss's name flickered there, then Hale's. Forgery or betrayal? The hook sank deep, trust fracturing like the sectors she just yielded. The humans fought on, competent and scarred, their compassion a blade turned inward. Jonah, in the holding bay, caught the alert on his wrist comm. Rafi's name wasn't on it, but the implications rippled. His brother glanced up, eyes meeting his through the field. See, it's bigger than us. Mira, monitoring from her lab, saw the same feed. Her purged code might have blinded them to more, but this? It forced her hand further. Science in the service of suspicion now. Liana stared at the list, the command deck silent save for the hum of failing ideals. The war demanded choices, each one carving deeper into the soul of what they defended. Survival at the cost of everything else. Liana's fingers tightened around the data slate, the names blurring under the dim glow of the command deck's emergency lights. The list of suspected collaborators wasn't long, but each entry felt like a fracture in the coalition's brittle spine. Admiral Cade's name sat there, bold and damning, tied to shadowy transfers that Jonah's team had sniffed out weeks ago. She exhaled slowly, the air tasting of recycled steel and regret. The war with Star had turned their own ranks into a minefield. Every ally a potential saboteur exploiting the very mercy that defined them. A chime cut through the silence, Jonah patching in from the field. She tapped the comms, pulling up his encrypted feed. His face appeared shadowed and sharp under the hood of his breather suit, the faint scar along his jaw catching the light from some distant console. "Commander," he said, voice low and steady, like he was reporting weather patterns instead of treason. "We're in Admiralty Archives, Sub-Level 3. Security's tighter than a Krell chokehold, but we ghosted the patrols." Liana leaned forward, her reflection ghosting across the slate. "Status on the ledgers?" Jonah's eyes flicked off screen to where his team worked in the dim vault. He was crouched in a maintenance crawl space, the air humming with the whine of overridden locks. The archives were a labyrinth of cold storage nodes, buried deep in the Coalition's orbital station, a fortress meant to safeguard their naval secrets. But secrets had a way of rotting from the inside. "Extracting now," he murmured. His gloved hand moved with surgical precision, interfacing a slim decryptor into the core terminal. Lines of code scrolled across his visor, green turning to amber as firewalls crumbled. Jonah's past as a Black Ops drifter made him a natural for this, calm under pressure, willing to bend rules that others treated as gospel. But Liana knew the cost. Each breach chipped at the man who wanted nothing more than to atone for the blood on his hands. A soft ping echoed in his earpiece. "Got it. Financial trails from Cade's personal accounts to Star's envoy. Offshore relays through neutral colonies. Looks like bribes for intel on our supply lines. Enough to sink him." Liana's jaw set. "Copy that. Get out clean. No traces." Jonah nodded, already signaling his team to withdraw. As the feed cut, she felt the weight settle heavier. Cade wasn't just any officer. He was a coalition pillar, a veteran who'd brokered the fragile alliance with the outer rim worlds. Exposing him would ripple outward, eroding the trust they'd fought to build. But Star's game was clear. pit their compassion against survival, force them to devour their own. She stood, smoothing her uniform as if it could iron out the doubt coiling in her gut. The command deck bustled quietly around her, analysts hunched over hollows, officers murmuring into comms, but eyes darted her way, sensing the storm. Liana activated the all-hands broadcast, her voice projecting calm authority over the station's intercom. "This is Commander Reyes, effective immediately. Admiral Elias Cade is relieved of command and confined to quarters, pending investigation for suspected collaboration with hostile forces. All personnel are to report any irregularities in logistics or personnel movements. We stand united against threats, internal or external, that's all." The deck fell silent, then erupted in a low buzz. Whispers spread like cracks in ice. Betrayal from the top? Cade's loyalists would fracture. Questions would fester. Liana watched a junior lieutenant pause mid-stride, face paling as he glanced toward the Admiralty wing. Trust, once cracked, didn't mend easy. Her rigid code demanded this. Uphold the institutions, no matter the personal toll. But as isolation protocols locked down Cade's access, she wondered if she was preserving the coalition or just hastening its unraveling. Hours blurred into a tense vigil. Reports flooded in. Cade's aides scrambling. Supply manifests under audit. Liana paced the observation lounge, staring out at the void where stars' fleets lurked like shadows on the stellar map. Her sister Maya's face flickered in her mind, evacuated to a frontier convoy, one of the safe routes Cade had personally overseen. If he was dirty, how many lives hung in the balance? The alert klaxon shattered the quiet. "Medical hub under attack. False flag markers," an officer shouted from the bridge. Liana bolted to the comm station, pulling up the feed from Epsilon Outpost's primary medbay. The alien hegemon's signature, surgical chaos designed to provoke. Star's forces, disguised in coalition colors, had breached the perimeter, seeding a bioagent into the triage wards. Screams echoed through the transmission as medics in hazmat suits scrambled, patients convulsing on gurneys. "Dr. Chen, report!" Liana barked into the direct line. Mira's face appeared, streaked with sweat under her lab visor, the sterile white of her research bay now a frenzy of flashing alarms. She was the coalition's linchpin for alien tech, decoding Star's bioweapons, racing against time to synthesize countermeasures. Her idealism had kept her neutral, treating the war like a puzzle to solve, not a meat grinder. But now her flaw stared back, underestimating how politics twisted science into slaughter. "Containment breach imminent," Mira said, voice tight but measured. "The agent's airborne, targeting neural clusters. Its Star's design mimics our own mercy protocols to spread unchecked." Liana gripped the console. "Evacuate and seal it off." Mira hesitated, eyes darting to the purging controls. Her team, young biologists, ethicists who'd signed on to heal, not destroy, huddled behind barricades. The lab held prototypes, antidotes derived from Star's captured samples, data streams irreplaceable after years of painstaking work. Trigger the purge, and half the facility vaporized, taking knowledge with it that could save thousands. "It's spreading," a tech called from off-screen. A patient thrashed, foam bubbling from his lips. Mira's hand trembled on the override. Neutrality be damned. Her research was being weaponized in real time. Her team's lives the currency. "Purging sectors 4 through 7, she announced, slamming the sequence. Flames erupted on the feed, bulkheads sealing with a hiss as plasma vents ignited. Screams cut short, replaced by the roar of inferno. Mira staggered back, face ashen, watching years of data archives corrupt in the heat. "Hubs contained," she reported, voice hollow. "But we lost everything on the neural inhibitors. My team's down to 6. Liana closed her eyes against the guilt. Star's false flag had forced Mira's hand, turning a scientist into an executioner. The cost piled higher, data gone, trust in their defenses shattered, and in the aftermath, as Mira's survivors tallied the dead, whispers spread. Was the purge too hasty? Had coalition overreach just handed Star propaganda? By dawn cycle, the blow landed harder. Cade had slipped his guards in the confusion, vanishing into the station's underbelly. Liana mobilized search teams, but it was too late. Sensors pinged his transponder at the edge of neutral territory. Star's embassy, a gilded fortress orbiting the diplomatic neutral zone, bastion of false sanctuary where the warlord's envoys peddled peace while sharpening knives. "He's there," Jonah confirmed via secure burst, his team regrouping in a shadowed docking bay. Slipped a shuttle during the hub chaos. Bold move. Embassy's sovereign soil. Liana's stomach knotted. Cade, cornered and desperate, would trade anything for cover, and Star would welcome the rot. Reports trickled in over the next hours. Ambushes on civilian convoys, routes that only High Command knew, transports shredded by precision strikes, debris fields lighting up the scopes. One manifest matched Maya's evacuation group, her sister's convoy, rerouted through Cade's secure lanes. The comms crackled with survivor chatter. "Mayday, we're hit, children aboard." Static swallowed the plea. Liana's vision tunneled, rage coiling like a spring. Maya, placed there on her orders, trusting the system Liana swore to uphold. Her code cracked then, the rigid trust in institutions fracturing under the weight of blood. "Jonah," she said, voice steel over the private line. "We hit the embassy. Covert strike. Recover those manifests before Cade unloads everything." A beat of silence. Jonah's face on the feed was unreadable, but she saw the flicker, the man who'd crossed lines before, now weighing if this tipped him fully into the abyss. "Diplomatic protocols, Commander. That's a line we don't uncross easy. Star's been waiting for us to blink first." "I know," Liana replied, calm but edged, the politeness of command masking the danger beneath. Humans didn't lash out blindly. They calculated, then struck with terrifying precision. "But those convoys, my sister, we lose the manifests, we lose the war. Authorize it, surgical, in and out." Jonah nodded, the decision settling like ash. "Understood. Team preps in 10. The strike launched under cloak, Jonah's squad slipping through the neutral zone's sensor blind spots. The embassy loomed, a spired behemoth of alien alloy, Star's flag rippling in simulated winds. They breached via a service conduit. Ghosts in the machine. Inside, corridors gleamed with bioluminescent veins, guards patrolling in pairs. Jonah moved like shadow, his team fanning out with suppressed pulses. Cade's voice echoed from a chamber ahead, oily with desperation. "The routes, full manifests, take them, just keep me breathing." Star's envoy chuckled, a guttural rumble. "Wise, Admiral. Your coalition's mercy was always its weakness." Jonah signaled the breach. Pulses whispered, dropping sentries. They burst into the chamber, weapons trained. Cade spun, face crumpling in betrayal. "Reyes sent you, that rigid bitch." A trank dart silenced him. Jonah scooped the data core from the table, manifest downloading in a rush. But as they exfiltrated, alarms wailed. Star's trap sprung, reinforcements flooding the halls. Blaster fire scorched the walls. Jonah's team trading shots with lethal efficiency. One operative went down, gut shot, but they carved a path out, shuttle engines flaring as they broke orbit. Back on the command deck, Liana reviewed the hall, the violation burning in her chest. Diplomatic immunity shattered. Star's outrage would ignite retaliations, sanctions, blockades, maybe open war on the neutrals. Her first formal collapse, authorizing the raid, meant the coalition's moral high ground crumbled, painting them as aggressors. but the manifests saved lives, or some of them. Maya's convoy had veered off route just in time, survivors limping into Allied space. Her sister was alive for now, yet victory tasted like defeat. Jonah's report came in terse. Manifests secured, Cade in custody, but we stirred the hive, Commander. Stars calling it an act of terror. Liana nodded to the empty feed, the weight of compromise settling. Her code had bent, survival demanding she become the monster Star accused them of being. And as the data scrolled, one file caught her eye, a sealed manifest from an embassy courier snagged in the chaos. She cracked it open, heart stuttering. The name leaped out, Elena Vasquez, her childhood friend, listed as a collaborator. Elena, who'd vanished years ago after a refugee aid mission, presumed dead, not bought. The war carved deeper, turning even ghosts into knives. Liana stared at the revelation, the command deck silent save for the hum of failing ideals. The war demanded choices, each one carving deeper into the soul of what they defended. Survival at the cost of everything else. Liana's fingers tightened on the datapad. The screen's glow casting harsh shadows across her face in the dim command deck. Elena Vasquez. The name burned like a fresh scar, pulling at memories of shared rations and whispered dreams back on the colony outposts. Gone, or so she'd thought, swallowed by the void of some aid convoy ambush. Now this, collaborator, bought by Star's silver-tongued promises or broken by them. The war didn't care for old loyalties, it twisted them into weapons. She set the pad down, the clack echoing in the sterile hum of consoles and flickering hollows. Around her the bridge crew moved like ghosts, efficient, eyes averted. The revelation hung unspoken, a weight that pressed on her chest. But the war waited for no one's grief. Reports piled up, Star's fleets tightening the noose, fuel depots swelling with stolen resources. Human sanctuaries one strike away from ash. "Commander," Lieutenant Hale said from her station, voice steady but edged with fatigue. "Captain Park's team is prepped for insertion. They're requesting final clearance on the depot run." Liana nodded, forcing her gaze to the tactical display. The fuel depot orbited a gas giant in Star's outer rim, a bloated station siphoning volatiles to power his dreadnoughts. Jonah's Black Ops squad, 6 humans, ghosts in the machine, slipping through patrols like knives in the dark. It was a long shot, sabotage that could cripple his logistics for weeks. But the cost, always the cost. "Green light it," she said, her voice level, the words tasting like ash. "Tell Park to ghost in quiet. No traces, no survivors if it comes to it. We can't afford ripples back to the core worlds." Hale relayed the order, and Liana watched the icons blink to life on the holo. Jonah's shuttle detaching from the frigate's underbelly, vanishing into the void. She trusted him. That much was bone deep. Jonah Park, the man who'd pulled her from a burning hab block years back, his hands steady amid the screams. But trust didn't erase the shadows in his eyes, the ones that whispered of lines crossed long before this war. Hours blurred into the relentless tick of the chronometer. Liana paced the deck, reviewing manifests, ignoring the knot in her gut. Elena's betrayal gnawed at her. How many more ghosts would rise? The Coalition's altruistic pacts, those grand edicts of mercy and relocation, had been Star's perfect lever. Offer aid, seed collaborators, turn compassion into infiltration. Now, with public faith fracturing, every decision felt like a step toward the abyss. A priority ping shattered the quiet. Jonah's voice crackled through the secure line, low and clipped. "Insertion complete, depot's a fortress, automated drones, but we've got a window, moving to core breach." "Copy," Liana replied, leaning into the comm. "Eyes sharp, Captain. Star's not one for loose ends." The line went silent save for the faint static of deep space. She imagined him there, Jonah in his void suit, breaching the hull with plasma cutters, his team fanning out like specters. Humans didn't charge like stars' hordes. They planned, they endured, they struck where it hurt. Frighteningly competent, her old instructors had called it. Morally complex, too, polite even as they dismantled empires. Then a hitch in the feed. Jonah's breath quickened. "Contact, Lieutenant Zaharu's patrol, Stars 2nd. We've got him." Liana's pulse spiked. Zaharu, Stars' enforcer, the one who'd orchestrated the sanctuary raids. Intelligence gold if taken alive. "Standing orders, Park. Secure for trial. We need what he knows." Static, then Jonah's response. Colder than vacuum. "Can't risk it, Commander. He's got a neural implant. Stars failsafe. One ping and the whole net lights up with our position. Depot, fleet movements, everything." "Jonah." She gripped the console, the metal biting into her palm. Rules of engagement. No field executions. Trials for all to prove humanity's way was better. But survival. A muffled grunt over the line, then a wet snap. Silence stretched, broken only by Jonah's exhale. "It's done. Implants slagged. Moving on." The comm cut. Liana stood frozen. The deck tilting under her. Irreversible. Jonah had chosen, defied her, defied the code. For the mission, for them, she wanted to rage, to demand recall. But the holo showed the depot's defenses flickering offline. Success at the price of a soul. Alarms blared moments later, red lights pulsing across the bridge. "Incoming transmission," Hale shouted. "Stars signature, orbital barrage inbound." Liana snapped to the display. Vectors lit up, kinetic strikes arcing from Stars battlecruisers, targeted on Epsilon Relay, the relocation sanctuary, Maya's sanctuary. Her sister evacuated there weeks ago, safe from the front lines, or so the reports had promised. "No," Liana whispered, the word lost in the chaos. She slammed the alert panel. "Evasive protocols, divert what we can, shields to the relay." But it was too late. The strikes hit like thunder, hollows blooming with fire and debris. The sanctuary, a cluster of habdomes and agripods, shattered under the barrage. Feeds from survivor beacons flickered. Screams, collapsing corridors, the void claiming everything. Maya, her little sister with her stubborn laugh, and dreams of peacetime gardens, reported missing. Presumed dead. Liana's vision blurred, but she didn't break. Not here. The crew watched her, waiting for the fracture. Instead, she straightened, voice iron. "Damage assessment, now. And get me Mira Chen. Lab assets are our next play." The war had taken Maya, turned her mercy into a grave. Stars' retaliation for the depot. Or just the next calculated blow. It didn't matter. The cost piled higher, demanding payment in kind. Down in the auxiliary labs, buried deep in the frigate's spine, Dr. Mira Chen wiped sweat from her brow, the acrid tang of overheating circuits filling the air. Her team, 3 techs, faces gaunt from rationing, huddled around the workbench, salvaging what remained of their prototype translator. Alien biology interfaces, antidotes for Stars bio agents, all shattered when his strike team hit the forward outpost. Neutrality be damned. Survival didn't wait for ethics boards. Mira's hands trembled as she rerouted power conduits, her mind racing. The translator's core could be flipped, repurposed into an EMP burst, tuned to fry Stars' shield harmonics. No more dissecting motives through words. This would be a weapon, silent and final. Her idealism had always whispered against it. Knowledge for healing, not harm, but the lab's ghosts, her colleagues vaporized in the raid, demanded more. "Doctor," one tech murmured, eyes on the schematics. "It'll work on their fleets?" It'll cripple them, Mira said, voice steady despite the knot in her chest. Her research team, her prototypes, personal stakes turned to ash. And now, handing this to command meant crossing the line. Scientific neutrality abandoned for military utility. Star's philosophy of enforced order mocked her from every report. Exploit weakness, eliminate it. Was she becoming that? She uploaded the design, fingers flying over the interface. Encrypt it to Reyes, tell her it's ready, field deployable from our shuttles. The file beamed out, a digital knife aimed at the heart of the hegemon. Mira leaned back, the lab's hum mocking her pulse. Her fear realized, her work weaponized, but lives saved, perhaps. At what moral cost? Back on the bridge. Liana absorbed the incoming data like blows to the ribs. The EMP specs glowed on her console. Brilliant, brutal, Mira's gift, wrapped in reluctant necessity. But before she could issue deployment orders, the public feeds erupted. Leaked imagery, Hale reported, voice tight. Civilian casualties from our depot strike. Stars spinning it. Human aggressors, butchering non-coms. Liana pulled up the streams, hollow vids of shattered depot sections. Alien bodies twisted in the wreckage. Broadcast across coalition nets. Fabricated or not, the damage was done. Public support, already frayed by relocation failures, collapsed in real time. Protests flared on core world stations, demands for her recall, accusations of war crimes, Jonah's execution, the orbital response, all fodder for the fire. And then the deeper cut. Internal alerts pinged, evidence of Cade's pact with Star. Admiral Cade, coalition brass, the one pushing for diplomatic overtures. Classified logs showed it, back-channel deals, trading sanctuary coords for safe passage. Elena's handler, perhaps. The betrayal ran to the top. Liana's jaw set. Release it, and the coalition fractured. Political ruin, purges, chaos. But withhold, and operations crumbled under the weight of doubt. Legitimacy demanded truth, even if it burned everything. Do it, she ordered, overriding the seals. Broadcast the Cade files, full transparency. Let them see what mercy bought us. The decks thrummed as the data flooded out. Whispers spread among the crew, shock, then grim resolve. Liana felt the shift, her command teetering, but the mission holding. Political suicide for operational steel. Maya's ghost demanded it, no more illusions. Star's response came swift, a galaxy-spanning broadcast hijacking every frequency. His image filled the hollows. The alien warlord, scales gleaming under command lights, eyes like polished obsidian. Theatrical as always, calculated to instill dread. Human defenders, he intoned, voice a resonant growl translated flawlessly. Your commander's hand stains the stars with needless blood. Zahru, loyal servant, slain without honor. Sanctuaries reduced to warn you. Compassion is your chain. Liana watched unblinking as his fleets loomed in the feeds, dreadnoughts arrayed like predators. But I offer terms. Surrender Commander Liana Reyes for public trial. Face justice under my order. Refuse, and I level your remaining sanctuaries. No mercy, no chains. Choose. The bridge fell silent. Eyes on her. The offer hung, a blade at the coalition's throat. Liana's mind raced. Maya's loss, Jonah's breach, Mira's weapon, the crumbling support. Star's exploitation laid bare. Turn their altruism against them. Force the retaliation that would corrupt. Violent response defensible, or the first step to becoming him. She met their gazes, calm, polite, the human way, even as danger coiled within. Prep the EMP prototypes. We're not handing over anyone. The war scarred deeper, but they would endure, at the cost of everything. Liana stood in the dim glow of the command deck, the hum of the Coalition's battered frigate vibrating through her boots like a distant heartbeat. The air recyclers wheezed, pulling in the metallic tang of recycled oxygen, and the holographic displays flickered with feeds from the evacuation zones. Colonies stripped bare, families herded like livestock under Star's banners. Her words still hung in the air. Prep the EMP prototypes. We're not handing over anyone. Mira's eyes had widened, a flicker of protest dying unspoken, while Jonah's face hardened into that familiar mask of resolve. They knew what it meant. No more waiting for tribunals or interstellar accords. This was the line she was crossing, her rigid code fracturing under the weight of necessity. She turned to the tactical console, fingers hovering over the authorization panel. The pending tribunal loomed in her mind. Charges of escalation, violation of the mercy protocols that had defined humanity's fragile alliances. Political exposure would gut the Coalition, paint them as aggressors in a galaxy that already whispered of human savagery. But Star's betrayal burned hotter, exploiting their evacuation offers to seed collaborators, turning compassion into a Trojan horse. Maya's face flashed in her thoughts. Her sister, safe in one of those programs, or so the reports claimed. Liana's jaw tightened. No more illusions. "Commander," Mira said softly, stepping closer, her lab coat rumpled from sleepless shifts. "The EMP isn't field tested. It could cascade through our own networks if the yield's off." Liana met her gaze, calm despite the storm inside. "That's why you're deploying it, Doctor. Surgical. One shot at Star's flagship. Sever the head, and the body falls." She tapped the panel, her authorization code sealing the order. Alarms chirped softly, routing the command to the hangar bays. Political ruin be damned. Survival first. Jonah was already moving, his special ops gear slung over one shoulder as he strode toward the lift. He'd volunteered the moment the prototypes were greenlit, no hesitation, just that quiet nod that spoke of debts unpaid. Liana caught his arm before the doors hissed open. "Park, this isn't a suicide run." He paused, his dark eyes steady, the scar along his jaw pulling tight. Rafi's accusation haunted him still, his brother labeled a collaborator, twisted by Star's promises of order. Jonah's past was a ledger of crossed lines, black ops that left villages in ash, redemptions bought with blood. "It's the play, Liana. I fly in low, dock the shuttle to their reactor vent, arm the device. EMP fries their command net without popping the hull. Clean." His voice was even, polite. But the danger coiled beneath, human and unyielding. She searched his face, seeing the flaw she knew too well, his readiness to burn himself out to spare others the sin. "And if it's not clean, then I detonate manual. Fleet goes dark, Star's done." He squeezed her arm once, a ghost of camaraderie. "Tell Rafi, if you find him, I tried to fix it." The lift doors closed, swallowing him. Hours blurred into tension aboard the frigate. Liana paced the bridge, tracking Jonah's shuttle on the tac map, a speck weaving through asteroid debris toward Star's looming flagship, a behemoth of jagged alien alloy, bristling with plasma lances. Mira hovered nearby, her tablet clutched like a shield, running final diagnostics. "Yields calibrated for their quantum relays," she murmured, "but Star's no fool. He'll have redundancies." The comms crackled, Jonah's voice steady as ever. "Approaching ventral docking, shields down for maintenance cycle, lucky break, boarding now." Liana gripped the console edge, knuckles white. The feed showed his suit cam, dim corridors pulsing with bioluminescent veins. Star's crew, hulking figures with chitinous limbs, patrolling in pairs. Jonah moved like shadow, silenced pulse rifle humming as he dropped 2 guards with neural stunners. No kills yet. Her code echoed in her ears. Minimize casualties, preserve the moral high ground. But Jonah's path was his own. He reached the reactor space, a cavernous chamber throbbing with contained fury, cores humming in synchronized fury, coolant lines snaking like veins. The EMP prototype, a sleek orb no larger than a grenade, slotted into his harness. "In position," he whispered over comms. "Arming in 3, 2. Alarms blared suddenly, Star's voice booming through the shipwide, translated in real time by Mira's algorithms, a guttural rasp laced with calculated menace. "Intruder detected. Surrender, human, or your worlds burn brighter." Jonah's breath hitched, but his hands didn't falter. "Not today." The orb clicked, a soft whine building. He triggered the shuttle's remote undock, ensuring no escape vector for himself. Liana's heart slammed against her ribs. "Jonah, abort!" Too late. The detonation rippled silently at first, a pulse of electromagnetic fury cascading through the flagship's innards. Lights flickered, consoles died in sparks, and the reactor groaned as failsafes engaged. Jonah's cam feed whited out, his final words a grunt of effort, then static. Silence on the bridge, broken only by Mira's sharp intake. Liana stared at the tac map, the flagship's signatures collapsing. Fleet-wide, Star's armada stuttering, drives failing, weapons cold. Jonah's shuttle tumbled away, a lifeless husk. He'd bought them the window, at the cost of his life. The coalition strike teams launched without mercy, boarding parties swarming the disabled vessels. Liana directed from the frigate, her voice clipped over open channels. "Secure the flagship. Priority, Warlord Star alive." Drones fed visuals, corridors choked with disoriented aliens, plasma fire sputtering out as human marines, calm, methodical, overpowered resistance. Star's philosophy of enforced order crumbled under the weight of severed comms. His surgical strikes turned to chaos. They found him in the command throne, a towering figure of iridescent scales and augmented limbs, surrounded by a cordon of elite guards. The feed showed the takedown, flashbangs, containment foam, Star's roar cut short by a neural collar. Alive, as ordered. No theatrical escape this time. Liberation followed in waves. Coalition dropships touched down on the outer colonies, Marines fanning out to shattered habdomes. Reports flooded in, civilians freed from labor camps, collaborators rounded up, Rafi among them, his face gaunt on the hollow, eyes meeting the camera with hollow defiance. Emotional victory tasted like ash. Families reunited amid rubble, but the scars ran deep. Star's exploitation had poisoned trust, turned mercy into suspicion. Humanity endured, frighteningly competent in their retaliation, but the moral complexity lingered. Polite killers, after all. Back on the Coalition's central station, the backlash hit like a gravity well. Liana stood before the Provisional Council, a semicircle of weary diplomats and admirals, their faces etched with the war's toll. The chamber smelled of stale coffee and ozone, holographic charters flickering accusations, unauthorized offensive action, breach of engagement rules, escalation without consensus. "You've won the battle, Commander Reyes," the lead counselor said, a silver-haired veteran from the inner worlds. "But at what price? The tribunal's already convening. Star's capture is a Pyrrhic gift. They'll spin it as barbarism." Liana's posture remained straight, her uniform crisp despite the fatigue gnawing at her bones. Maya's safety reports had come through, her sister extracted safe, but the personal stake felt distant now, overshadowed by the institutional betrayal she embodied. Her flaw, that unyielding trust in the chain of command, had led her here, authorizing without full clearance, gambling the Coalition's fragile legitimacy. "I protected our people," she replied, voice even, no plea in it. "Star's fleet is scrap. Colonies are ours again." The counselor sighed, rubbing his temples. "And now we're painted as the aggressors. Resign, Liana. Submit to prosecution. It's the only way to salvage the peace. She nodded once, the weight settling like lead. Moral loss, political ruin. Her code demanded accountability. As she turned to leave, Jonah's face ghosted in her mind, his sacrifice the unspoken indictment. She'd led them to victory, but the cost carved deeper than any blade. Mira watched from the observation gallery, her hands clasped tight to hide the tremor. The EMP's success had saved lives, but Jonah's death replayed in her simulations, avoidable if she'd pushed harder for redundancies. Her idealism, that blind faith in neutral science, felt naive now. Star's weaponization of her earlier antidotes had forced this pivot. The research team buzzed around her in the adjacent lab, prototypes secured, but the air hummed with unspoken questions. The offer came via secure channel that evening as Mira pored over Star's captured data slates. Interim military scientific director, Liana's vacancy demanded it, the council said. No more pretense of neutrality. Integrate her work into defense protocols. Weaponize the knowledge to deter the next hegemon. She stared at the slate, the words blurring. Her flaw had underestimated the political grind, turned her prototypes into tools of retaliation. Personal stake, her team intact, but the translator tech now laced with EMP variants. Ethics bending under pragmatism. Fear gripped her, her work as a weapon, defining humanity's edge. I accept, she transmitted, voice steady. The transformation settled, a pragmatic shell over the idealist core. Cost of survival. Abandon the high ground. Embrace the coil of danger within. Star's containment cell was a sterile cube, deep in the station's brig, force fields humming softly. Mira entered alone, tablet in hand, the EMP designs encrypted within. The warlord loomed against the far wall, his scales dulled under restraint lights, multiple eyes fixing on her with calculated intensity. No rage, just that theatrical poise, his philosophy of deterrence unbroken, even in chains. Dr. Chen, he rumbled, the translator rendering it smooth, almost conversational. The human who unmade my fleet, impressive, polite even in your efficiency. Mira stood her ground, the cell's chill seeping through her coat. Jonah's sacrifice echoed here, a human breach that Star's order couldn't predict. Your exploitation ends, warlord. The colonies are free. He tilted his head, a gesture of alien amusement. Free? At the cost of your soul. The tribunal watches. Hand over the EMP designs, full schematics, yields, integrations. Place them in interstellar custody. Prove your mercy wasn't a facade. She felt the pull, her old neutrality whispering temptation. But pragmatism held firmer now, scarred by the war's brutal clarity. Or, Star's eyes gleamed. Keep them, wield them, but know this, retaliation defines you now. The galaxy will see humans not as compassionate outliers, but as predators coiled in civility. Every alliance fractures, every border hardens. Your choice, Doctor, custody or corruption. Mira met his gaze, calm, the danger uncoiling within her own resolve. The hook sank deep, humanity's moral complexity laid bare.